The No Kings protests. Ooh. Mr. Producer, where's the No Queens protest? You know, the No Kings protest, the Democrats who organized this and the radical thugs, the Marxists, the Islamists, the Antifites, the BLMites, a very broad representation of the radical, extreme, nutjob left. And I got to thinking, ladies and gentlemen, they keep saying there were 7 million people out there. I must confess I didn't see that many. And then I thought to myself, well, there's 330 million of us who were not, who had no interest in it whatsoever. Now, if we really had somebody who was violating the Constitution relentlessly, and not only relentlessly, but in ways that was creating a dictatorship, wouldn't there be more than 7 million people? And would they only be Marxists, Islamists, BLM, Antifa, elected Democrats? I mean, wouldn't we all be joining them? I think we would. Now, it's funny how they put these numbers out, 7 million. Remember the Tea Party movement, which we were very, very involved in? If this crowd had 7 million, we had 20 million. We had massive rallies all the time. And not just on one day, and certainly not funded by George Soros and other comrades of his who hate America and try to destroy America, as they tried to destroy Britain and try to destroy Israel and the whole West, for that matter. There were many more of us than them. But the media keeps pushing it hard. Our friends at Newsbusters pointed out that they couldn't stop reporting about No Kings protest, whereas the March for Life and other massive protests that we, patriotic Americans, receive almost no attention whatsoever. Now, I happen to be in Baltimore, where my wonderful wife ran a marathon, and did very well, I might add. And there were other people running marathons. I didn't see any great protest or even a little parade of the No Kings movement, but there were people who sort of pasted it on their back. Some of them were running. But it is true what the president and others have said. These are like the old-time 1960s hippies. Older than me. They're really getting into it. They were kind of excited about all this. If I could even find them. They were kind of mulling around. There was no mass organized group of No Kings movement in Baltimore. Oh, there were some, please, don't get me wrong. But if that's representative of 7 million, there were not 7 million. Not that I care. Not that I care. This is entirely a Democrat Party concoction, a fiction, along with the most radical kooks in their organizations that hate America. It was a hate America protest of sorts. But in any event, 330 million of us did not participate. And I dare say 329 million didn't even know it was taking place. I thought I'd point that out. Now, I've been telling you behind this microphone day in and day out and elsewhere that the president's use of the National Guard, and in fact, if he chooses the Insurrection Act, is clearly constitutional. Not just based on the Constitution and federal law, but based on prior use by past presidents. A panel of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled exactly that just now and overturned a lower court judge. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that President Donald Trump can deploy Oregon National Guard troops into the city of Portland, delivering a significant victory to the Trump administration. I hate when they write that. That's Fox. But it's not a victory to the Trump administration. It's a victory for America. It's a victory for upholding the Constitution. I told you before, this was never in doubt. If something happens, it's because we have rogue judges who are doing it. But this was never, ever, ever in doubt. It's not even a close call. And yet it was a 2-1 decision on the panel. Judges on the 3-member panel ruled 2-1 to authorize Trump's deployment. Judge Ryan Nelson and Judge Bridget Bade, both appointed by Trump. And I should note that they mention who's appointed by Trump. How many decisions are out there usurping presidential authority in the Constitution, undermining the president, where they mention which president appointed them? I have to go look it up and tell you. But 2 were appointed by President Trump and 1 by Clinton, Susan Graber. If you're considering the record at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. Section 1240-06-3, authorizes the federalization of the National Guard, quote, when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. The move has become a political flashpoint, they write, as protesters opposing his key policies have clashed with law enforcement. Well, that's the problem, because that effectively is the militia of the Democrat Party. When you see people fighting, pushing back, throwing things, violent, against federal law enforcement, those are Democrats, or people who identify with Democrats. Because the Democrats, the party, its surrogates, are urging exactly that, just so you know. What happened was a lower federal court judge in Oregon temporarily blocked Trump's attempt, I'm reading, to deploy troops to Portland earlier this month. The Ninth Circuit agreed to hear. The panel overruled. The lower court had described Trump's action in her emergency order, and she was way, way off. I told you her opinion was basically an opinion piece she could have ran in any major left-wing newspaper. She said it was untethered to reality, and one that she said risks blurring the line between civil and military federal power to the detriment of this nation. Obviously, this judge was ignorant, and is ignorant. Again, I've gone through the history of the Insurrection Act, and even before there was an Insurrection Act, presidential authority and use of the military to enforce federal law, whether it's integration, whether it's to open up business activity that's being that is threatening the well-being of the nation, whether it's a rebellion like the Whiskey Rebellion, whether it's to put down a riot like George H.W. Bush did in Los Angeles. And here you can see the president's trying to enforce existing immigration laws. He didn't write them. Existing immigration laws on deportation. And the Democrat Party, governors who want to be president, mayors who are radical leftists, who now rely on illegal immigrants for their support, they say no. They're not going to comply with the law, as if it's the old Confederacy, as if they're nullifying federal immigration law and the Constitution's Supremacy Clause. And the media are fine with that. So the irony of this calling No Kings protest. No Kings is about as absurd as it gets. That's why 330 million Americans did not protest. Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Now, what else has happened here that proves these people to be as buffoonish as possible? The president is working this all through the courts. Even the activist rogue judges. If they rule he can't use National Guard, federalize them, they stand down. The circuit rules that he can, they're back in action. Where is this President King? Exactly when and where? I want to know. Nowhere. Nowhere. Just because the Democrats say, he's militarizing our cities, as they criminalize the cities, as they create an environment for illegal aliens from anywhere in the world to come into this country, particularly the crowd that wants to overthrow our country. I spent a lot of time on this Sunday night on Fox, as I have here. The purpose of immigration. The purpose of immigration, to keep it simple, is to improve our society, is to bring people into our country who will improve the lot of the citizens who are here. It's not supposed to be they come here so they get health care. They come here because they want to come here. That's not the way it's supposed to work. And that's not the way it's going to work under Trump. They've turned all this inside out and upside down. Immigration is not for the benefit of the foreigner. It's for the benefit of the American citizen in our society. So if somebody can't contribute, but they're going to immediately be on the dole, in the past they were not allowed into the country. If somebody is going to protest our country, they were not allowed into the country. Now, they have free speech rights under the first, due process, free speech. That wasn't always the case. If you're coming here for the purpose of overthrowing our country, if you're coming here for the purpose of chasing Jews down the streets, or burning the American flag, or carrying the Hamas or the Islamic Jihad or the Iranian flags, you're out of here. You're not even supposed to be here. That's been the position. That's been the position of our government and our country for over 200 years, until the 1960s. Just so you know. So no kings, no queens, I guess. Nobody of the sort. Anti-Israel radicals, of course, joined the anti-Trump No Kings crowd, as Fox points out. In other words, the anti-Semites are all in with the Democrats. I think we can now say the Democrat Party is the Hamas party. They've accepted the Democrat Socialist, a.k.a. Marxist-Islamist, Mandani, into their midst. And they're going to back him all the way like the governor has.